But first off, I'm sure you've heard the rumblings. You probably don't know the specifics. I don't know if many people on our website know the specifics, but those that have listened to the PPH radio show and those that have visited the board are aware that Brent Kremen has been institutionalized.
What?
You didn't know this.
Well, I read something on the board, and it's hard to tell when somebody's being, with him, it's hard to tell.
With the board in general.
Yes.
I read many things in the board and think this is a bad joke or something.
Sure.
No.
This person's full of shit.
I thought, okay, but then I was reading through it, and I thought maybe it was true. So okay.
Or something where one of us will make a joke and people will run with it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's the most common
thing.
Yeah, that's the most common thing.
Well, the truth is that Brent Kremen has, in fact, been institutionalized. He is in for 9 days at this point, and in 9 days, there is the potential that he could remain inside for an additional 90 days. His parents have alerted him that they don't think he's going to be in for 90 days, but he is extremely worried. And he is hoping that perhaps myself and Vince can go testify for him at a court hearing. And I asked him, what do you want me to say? Because I'm going to have to be honest about this. And he said, well, I want you to tell them that I'm always this crazy. So
well, Brent.
he called and left a message the other day. And
he knows, but he does not understand.
Let me see if I can... Here, give me your microphone. We're going to try and play this message right here. Hold on, everybody. Okay, here we go. Oops, hold on.
Hey, Bryan, it's Brent Kremen live from Harborview Hospital, the mental ward. My parents have put me here involuntarily. Blake and Tina don't think I should be here. So maybe you could go and we could do like a 3 minutes with Brent Kremen live from the mental ward. I'm sure that I would have a lot to say. So how about if you give me a call here, even to visit, and in a couple of weeks I have a hearing, so maybe you could be a witness and say that I act this way all the time. You call me at Harborview Hospital.
Yeah. That's Brent Kremen, everybody. And I got that message yesterday, and you'll notice that Brent was fantastically lucid during that message. He's apparently a little bit medicated.
I was going to say, is there any medicine involved here?
There is, in fact, some cheeky medicine involved. Actually, probably not that cheeky medicine, but there is some medicine.
No, there's he's on some extra good stuff.
And before SmackDown tonight, he called again, and we had another chat, which ended up going a long time. And he asked me if I wanted to hear the story of how this occurred, and I told him no. Because
by the way, when Brent wants to tell you a story, that's usually a good idea.
Yeah, so I told him no because, he said he wanted to come on the show. So I thought, okay, well, we'll call you during the Christmas show. You can tell us this little wacky story, and everything will be happy. Well, he ended up starting to tell me the story anyway, and I was on the phone for like 15 minutes. So we may have to do a deal tomorrow. But the deal is, everybody, we are probably going to call Brent in the mental ward during the show tomorrow as part of the Christmas show, or Monday, or whenever it's going to air. So everybody can look forward to that. But Brent needs our support right now. So say your prayers for young Brent Kremen. I said it on the PPH show. I will say it again. And I'm also saying this having an aunt who also, I believe, is institutionalized. She may not be this exact moment, but she was locked up for a long, long time. Loopy. These two people, I'm no doctor, but they're not crazy. They're just who they are. Would you agree, Vince? I really don't think Brent deserves to be in a mental institution.
I don't think Brent is a danger to anyone except himself.
I don't even think he's a danger to himself. I guess it depends on what you consider a danger to yourself. I don't think he's going to try and stab himself. He may have, perhaps, habits which may not be the safest habits in the world, but you drive fast.
Kick his ass.
Yes, that's also a danger right there. But so that's the story, everybody, on Brent Kremen. Yeah. We'll have more in the next couple of days, but I thought I would.
I don't know if I should be amused or feel bad that I'm amused or.
Well, I think it's okay to be mildly amused because Brent, aside from when he actually thinks about being locked up, he's not at all amused. But when he talks about it, there are amusing aspects to it to him, like the fact that he was actually sent to a mental institution by his family involuntarily.
This isn't the first time, is it?
I don't know, actually. I don't know these answers.
All right. No.
But we'll discuss this with him tomorrow. But
that'll be great.
That's the story. One of our own is in the clink.
He's on the clink.
It's the clink.
He's in the hospital.
Yeah.
He's getting help.
Involuntarily. He can't just leave. That's in the clink.
Oh, you have a point there.
As it regards Brent Kremen. There's some concern about Brent appearing on this show. I don't know if everybody's noticed it or not.
More than usual.
Yeah. Now, let me explain the situation with Brent Kremen. When we did the PPH radio show, I was actually not even going to mention Brent's issues on the air. Blake Norton, who had been drinking heavily, let the cat out of the bag, and thus we set the ball rolling, to use 2 cliches in a row. Now, I realize that on the PPH show, I use such terms as the loony bin, perhaps the madhouse, a couple of others as well. Funny farm. Let's be serious. If we all heard tomorrow that Vince was put in an asylum, this would be the source of much comedy.
Okay.
It'd be the source of much laughter. And really, initially, when you hear about the story of Brent Kremen being put in the asylum, it does strike you as funny, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's completely absurd. Now, a lot of people, in fact, all of you listening to this right now, with maybe 3 or 4 exceptions, know Brent from the radio shows, where he, in fact, does come across as a crazed madman. I will admit that this is true. He has driven all of us a little mad in our day, but I have known Brent now for 10 years. And I can tell you without hesitation that Brent Kremen is not crazy. And I will, in fact, go before a court if need be, and need may, in fact, be, and testify to this effect. I will point out that, yes, Brent does have some issues. Brent perhaps does better when he is medicated. But Brent sure as fuck does not deserve to be locked up in a mental institution. This is completely ridiculous. And thus I can find some comedy in it.
I see.
You know what I mean? I mean, you might as well lock me up. And if I were locked up in an institution, I'd find it pretty funny until I really thought about it for about 3 straight days, which is where Brent's at right now, in which case it's not quite so funny, but that's the gist of the situation here. Brent does not deserve to be locked up. Brent is not a crazy man.
Brent is aware of what is real and what is not, which I believe is the legal definition of crazy.
Sure. Brent's well aware.
He's not delusional.
No. Here's what Brent is. Brent was not locked up because he was a danger to himself or because he was a danger to anybody else. If there's any danger in Brent Kremen's life, it's that Brent Kremen has this strange desire to do things that are not necessarily self-destructive, but could potentially be self-destructive. But that's like locking somebody up because they exceed the speed limit on the highway. Some people make decisions that aren't necessarily the best for themselves, but they are aware of this, but they do it anyway. Speeding, drinking, we're fucking drinking on the air here. A lot of people do a lot of things. Now, what happened, my understanding, and I won't go into too much detail here, but this is the way that it was explained to me. Brent was having an argument with a family member, which everybody does, and Brent happened to break something. Something broke. Mm-hmm. And this was apparently grounds to call the authorities.
Actually, I understand it was something totally different. Brent...
No, this is the other part of it.
Okay.
This was what happened first. What happened was Brent broke a chair.
Yes.
Now, as Brent was leaving, he jaywalked.
That's the part I heard, yes.
He jaywalked, and a certain family member, I don't want to go into too many details or make accusations, but they decided that Brent was running headlong into traffic, and Brent found himself institutionalized as a result of these two things. Now, personally, I don't find that grounds for institutionalizing anybody. Vince, you, in fact, there was an incident where I believe you got a flat tire on a median, and you behaved in a manner far different than young Brent, jaywalking and breaking a chair.
This was years ago, but to make a long story short, I had a temper tantrum wherein I basically whited out for about 3 minutes. And there's 3 minutes I don't remember where I ranted and screamed, and this is
and ran in a circle, and all your friends
basically
were there.
Ran back and forth, yes. And this is an area of I-5 where there's a large grass median about 30 yards wide. And as I ran and ranted and raved and screamed and wailed and cursed the earth and all its creatures, my friends finally got bored of watching me and began to change my tire.
Now, if at some point in your life your parents had put you on Zoloft or whatever I don't know what the wacky medications are for for issues such as this, but if you had been prescribed some sort of medication and your parents saw you having this exact same fit, there's a chance they might have tried to institutionalize you.
There was a time in my life where I probably should have been institutionalized, frankly.
Okay, well, I would have gone to your hearing and I would have said, he's not crazy, he's just Vince. And it's the same thing I would say about Brent Kremen. There are people that are dangerous to themselves, legitimate dangers to themselves, legitimate dangers to society. And in 10 years of knowing Brent, never once have I said, Jesus Christ, Brent's going to kill somebody or Brent's going to kill himself.
I don't think Brent would do any of those things. Brent's just so annoying you want to kill him.
Yeah, he's an annoying human being, but I know plenty of annoying human beings.
Not like him.
Vince, you could annoy me. Let me tell you.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
Many, many people can annoy me. I don't necessarily think you should be locked up.
That's true.
So, with that said, we're going to call Brent in the institution right now and wish him I was going to say a Merry Christmas, but that probably wouldn't be fitting in this case.
Plus, he's Jewish.
Being Jewish and all. But we're going to call him, we're going to say hi, we're going to see how things are, and then after that, we shall commence with the drinking, the present opening, and the actual Christmas show per se. So, hold on for a second, everybody.
Awesome.
Oh, hold on. Brent.
Hello, Bryan.
You're on the air, dude. How you doing?
I am not doing terribly well.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be here. I don't belong here.
Hi, Brent.
Would you like to be on the air, or should we speak of this off the air?
Probably off the air would be best. Hello, Vince.
Well, can we at least say hello to all the folks first?
Of course. Am I on the air right now?
Yeah, we're just going to say hi to everybody, and then we'll dispense of those such things.
Okay, go ahead. Say hi to everybody. I mean, I'm willing to go on the air. Am I on the air now?
Yeah, you're on the air right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and do this off.
Well, we'll talk about all the other stuff off the air, but we just wanted to say hello on the air. Merry Christmas and such. Happy Hanukkah.
Yes, it is Happy Hanukkah until sundown tonight, and Merry Christmas to all.
Well, perhaps
there you go then.
We won't discuss any of your current issues at this point. We can talk about that later on, but any memories of looking back on 2006? How was it as a year? Thus, how would you look back upon it as a year? I know that's kind of a tough question to answer at this exact moment in time, but
the first 11 months.
Up until recently, how was this year?
For myself, in wrestling,
we don't care about wrestling. Just how was Brent's year?
Well, let's see. Going to some TNA pay-per-views, that was fun.
That was fun.
I attended some weddings, that was fun. My sister got more serious with her boyfriend, and he's a very nice guy. I would say, what else happened this year? Well, the sports management degree I completed was that was in 2005. So,
oh wow.
I would say that I've had better years.
I guess that would be a good way to put it. Well, let's speak in terms of wrestling. Have you totally given up on wrestling? Was this the year that your joy in wrestling was killed?
No, but I would say that oftentimes I will turn on Raw or I will turn on SmackDown, and I will say I have no desire to see this. And I would say that TNA, I'm just getting used to it being on at 9 o'clock. When it was on at other hours, I would be asleep. So it's on an hour where I would be able to watch, and unfortunately Vince Russo is now booking, so basically I don't even try because he's booking.
But here's a question I got to ask to look back at your past year. Have you had the issues with like your VCR and such tended to? For a while you didn't have a VCR or some craziness.
Right. I now have a VCR.
That's good.
And I am watching lots of Mel Brooks movies on it lately.
Oh, what have you watched?
Well, I'm watching. Right now, I've been into One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest since I got here.
You don't say.
Over.
That is the movie you chose to watch.
Actually, that's not Mel Brooks. No, I'm watching High Anxiety. That is Mel Brooks.
This is also appropriate. Brent, I think an appreciation of Mel Brooks may be the only thing you and I have in common.
Well, that would. I think we both
pornography.
like sports.
Porn,
pornography
yeah.
and sports. You guys have more in common than me and Brent do, actually.
That's possible.
The only thing we have in common is wrestling. You guys have sports, pornography, Mel Brooks.
You got a point there.
What other wacky comedies do you watch, Brent? I know you're big. Blazing Saddles.
The Blazing Saddles. Bryan, by the way, you still have my Blazing Saddles tape that you have not returned.
If it's a video, if it's a videotape,
bad news, Brent.
I may have to buy you a DVD because I threw out all of my videotapes. They are currently
Melted.
Yes.
Well, that's unfortunate. Fortunately, I did get the Mel Brooks collection for my birthday, and so I have a DVD of Blazing Saddles now.
Well, that's always good.
Yes. You like Woody Allen?
Not terribly, actually, no.
Okay.
Not a big Woody Allen fan myself, personally. How
Yes,
about the Three Stooges?
I can relate particularly to the episode where Woody Allen's mother appears in the sky and tells all of New York City about Woody and his adventures, and then he goes and he meets he meets a woman, and his mother doesn't like the woman, and so Woody's mother is going and telling the whole New York City, because Woody's mother has basically disappeared during a magic show, but she reappears in the sky in front of New York City is this plot.
That's a hell of a magic
Well, I can
trick.
relate to this because my mother is terribly involved in my life.
You don't say.
And terribly overly concerned. Eventually, Woody, meets this woman, and she's has pork droppings all over her house or whatever. Anyway, the mother ends up liking her, and so she's Jewish, but obviously not terribly observant.
I hope you're not watching these movies and planning different ideas of how you can incorporate such comedic plot elements into your own life.
No, I am not. However, I did mention movies, and so I brought over Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have the High Anxiety, which in my current residence I'm watching and sharing with the residents. I'm not sure if that's helping me or not.
So they let you bring in movies?
They do, and I was kind of surprised at the choice of movies that I'm allowed to bring. They're allowing me to watch, and basically they're saying as long as it's not rated X, as long as it's not porn, I'm allowed to watch.
What about Triple X?
I would say that would be a no.
Actually,
what about
let me ask this question. You can bring a rated X movie in? Are there even rated X?
No, we are not allowed to bring rated X
Even
movies.
like Midnight Cowboy, you wouldn't be allowed to bring that thing in?
No, we would not.
Really?
I've never heard of Midnight Cowboy, but...
Well, it was a movie from the 70s. It wasn't a porn film, but it got an X rating.
I would say no.
Nowadays, it would be probably an R.
Okay,
What
well,
did it have
nowadays
in
I
it?
would imagine it would be fine.
What did this movie have in it that warranted the X?
I'll-
Explicit drug use?
I'll have to look that up
You
here.
know,
But
movies that I would think would be controversial, like High Anxiety, I wouldn't think they would let us watch in here, but they have.
Well, I would imagine One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest actually would not be allowed, but I've never visited a place like that, so I can't. I can only go off my assumptions.
The reason why I'm here is due to my mother and due to, my mother.
Yeah.
So now we'll discuss the rest of the situation off the air. But we want to say good luck, Brent. We're all pulling for you. It was.
Thank you. If I could get any visitors from the Figure 4 Empire, that would appreciate it. Maybe some free Brent T-shirts would be great.
I'm afraid that a couple of people
marching in front of Harborview Hospital in Seattle, free Brent, that'd be wonderful.
Free bread.
Free Brent.
Free Brent.
Oh, free Brent. I
Yeah,
was a little bit
pictures of
concerned that.
Brent. And then they can march in front of Harborview, and the T-shirts would say "Free Brent." I would really appreciate that.
That would ensure
There you go, everyone.
approximately a dozen people would be hanging out with you for 9 days. So we may want to avoid that one. But I think Blake and I are going to be working out at Buddy's school on, let's see, what it would be, Wednesday. So we may head out and see you afterwards. So that's probably going to end up being the plan. So.
Well, I would appreciate that. Do I sound any more subdued than normal, or
Subdued,
any more different than normal in any way?
You sound,
Subdued is a great word.
Listen, when I first got the word that you were visiting a facility, we'll just put it that way, I was like, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is this doesn't deserve to happen to young Brent. And then after I've talked to you for the last couple of days, I end up feeling even more certain that this is unacceptable. So
there's no question this is unacceptable.
We'll discuss means of getting you out. I don't want to I can't say here on the air that we'd break you out or anything like that, because that would be...
No, that wouldn't be a good idea. I mean, it's not really possible. I haven't even considered it.
Okay, well, that's
I was
good.
not interested until they said it was not possible. Now I consider it a challenge.
Now Vince is actually interested. We had an idea of, like, me and Blake were going to dress up like nurses, and we were going to dress Vince up like a guy that had just suffered a heart attack since he's the fat one, and we'd somehow get in and get you out and maybe leave Vince in there. We hadn't really thought the plan out much after just getting inside. So.
This only works if we play the theme from Mission Impossible the entire time.
That's pretty funny. By the way, I'm at 5 West B in Harborview Medical Center, 325 9th Avenue.
I don't know if we should...
Should we edit that later?
What the hell?
Seattle, Washington, 98104. If anyone
well, they would have they could have looked up Harborview.
I will say this: we've got some wacky people on the board, and they post some wacky things, but I don't think anybody would actually physically do anything too wacky.
Should I give the phone number out?
No, please don't do that. That's a little bit too wacky.
I guarantee you would get annoying people.
Well, Brent, we want to wish you a happy Hanukkah. We're going to go
Before
call.
we go,
thank you. Hanukkah. Is it sundown yet? Hanukkah ends at sundown.
No, you got about another hour and a half, maybe. But
All right,
before we take you off the air, I do want...
We will not be lighting the candles tonight because it goes from sundown to sundown, and so Hanukkah will be ending at sundown, so therefore we would not light the candles. We lit the last candle last night. Last night was the 8th night of Hanukkah for you people.
You got that, Vince?
I see.
Okay,
no candle lighting.
Vince has to speak here.
But, well, it's short. I got you 2 presents, Brian. There's one that's wrapped and one that's in the plain brown wrapper. And the one in the plain brown wrapper I think Brent might appreciate.
All right, should I open it now?
I think you should open it now.
All right, Brent, we're going to open a present with you on the air. Hold on.
That's very nice.
Brian is wheeling over to grab it.
All right, this is, what is this? Blackberry wine.
That's funny. Is it Manischewitz?
It's kosher for Passover.
It is, in fact, Manischewitz wine.
Well, yeah, I mean, only Manischewitz makes blackberry wine, or there may be Magen David.
It says, yeah, it is. It's Manischewitz. How do you pronounce that?
That would be Manischewitz.
Manischewitz.
Yeah, actually, Bill Goldberg was making jokes about Manischewitz wine. It is, it's cliched in a Jewish house.
This says under strict...
If you might remember, one time I brought over some French kosher wine that was actually good, because it is possible to get good kosher wine. But I appreciate the sentiment, and so bring me over some Manischewitz. No, actually, they won't let me drink it here.
I was going to say, they may not ban that.
Well,
I do appreciate it.
In
when I get out of here, we will go and have a toast.
If we can sneak it in via, say, a Capri Sun pouch.
Hey, can I drink this now? Is that okay? It's not sundown
yet. Go ahead,
yet.
drink some Manischewitz wine on me.
I'm going to drink some for you right here.
And for all of you New Yorkers out there, I'm sure you find this very funny.
Holy God, that tastes good.
Really? Let me try something.
Jesus.
It is
no, I
sweet.
don't even want you... Oh, it's Christmas. Take a sip of that.
It is very sweet.
God, that's good,
It
Brent.
is specially sweetened, actually, if you look at the bottle.
Where'd you get that?
You can get it at any grocery store.
That was at Fred Meyer.
$4 or $5.
It was, I specifically looked for the cheapest bottle of wine I could find, and when I saw the cheapest bottle of wine was also the Jewish Passover wine, I figured this is the most perfect gift I could find.
This is some of the best wine I've ever had, Brent. I want you to know that.
Well, I'm glad that you like it. This is the kind that you traditionally drink 4 glasses of on Passover.
And supposedly,
I may drink this whole bottle.
I believe that's
tonight.
It is quite sweet.
They told me it's also fairly strong as well.
What is the alcohol content on it?
It is 11% alcohol by volume. That's some good stuff right there, kids.
Merry Christmas, Brian.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And Brent, spiritually.
All right, just do me a favor.
Yes?
Have a little sip of wine.
Yes?
And say, L'chaim.
All right, let me do that right now. What are the people thinking there as you're screaming on the phone? L'chaim!
All right, to life.
To life.
To life.
All right.
We need to freedom, Brent. How do you say to freedom?
I don't think Jews believe in freedom.
I don't know, but hopefully they'll let me out of Egypt soon.
Brent, if you were here, I would give you a high five.
That was a good one. All right, Brent, we'll give you a call. Right. We'll give you a call very soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
I'd like to say hello to every members of the Figure 4 Empire. They're all welcome to visit me here.
That's right. We'll talk to you in a little while.
Thank you.
Thank you. Holy cow.
That is some damn good wine. I need to go get a bottle of that for myself.
Whew. My face is already getting a little red. It's the, I'm going to mix a shot right here, then we're going to call somebody else.
All right.
We're going to be recapping the TNA pay-per-view with the third Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe match, this one being a 30-minute Iron Man match. And before we get into that, we have a special guest tonight, live from the community room, apparently, Brent Kremen.
Hello. I can't believe that I topped Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle.
Oh, well.
That's quite an honor.
Hi, Brent. How you doing?
Well,
Hi, Vince.
What you been up to?
I'm doing much better than when I was in the nut house.
we're here to talk to you about that. So let's just get that out of the way very quickly. For those of you unaware, Brent has joined us for many a TNA pay-per-view recap, and for about 2 weeks he was held 3 weeks held against his will in
The loony bin.
the loony bin, I guess you could say. And Brent,
The cuckoo's nest.
the
funny
cuckoo's
farm.
nest.
Take your pick.
Now, Brent, I think largely most people that have heard you on this show were aware that you're a little wacky. You're a little goofy. You can be a little annoying. We've wanted to kick your ass on occasion here or there, but that's what friends do, you know? But we didn't actually think you deserve to be in the loony bin. So, why don't you tell a little bit about your experiences in the nut house?
Okay. Some of these are funny, some of these are not.
Uh-oh.
Start with the funny ones.
Now, let's start with the sad ones first.
All right.
Okay. Well, one lady was in there because when she was pregnant, she was shot in the face with a sawed-off shotgun.
Son of a bitch.
Now, naturally, that can have an effect on
That's
somebody's
sad.
brain, because their brain is obviously different than it was before if they live. And she lived as they left her womb alone, so the baby lived as well. Secondly, there was a guy that was my roommate. He seemed like a perfectly nice guy. We got along well. I even gave him my email, but I did not give him my phone number because one time he went manic because he was diagnosed as bipolar, and which is the same diagnosis that I was given, yet he did things when he was bipolar that I would never, ever do, such as hijack an airplane.
He hijacked an airplane.
He hijacked an airplane with a gun.
I would like to cut you off here and hereby apologize for me stating this place was the nut house and the loony bin. I apologize. I just like to get that out there. Go ahead.
So I think that so those people belonged in there because
Sure.
because the first one had a brain that was different than it was before,
Yeah.
and the second one did things when he was manic that are dangerous to himself and other people.
Yes.
I agree.
That was what we had determined, and I went to the, we'll just call it the institution for now. I went to the facility. I went to the facility, and I didn't meet the woman, but I did see your roommate. And it became very clear to me early on that most of these people, in fact, everybody that I ran into there, definitely probably was best served, I guess, living in the facility. You, however, stuck out like a sore thumb in there as somebody that did not belong. Now, ultimately, is that what was decided, that perhaps you were there, you were wrongly incarcerated?
Well, I'll tell you that story in a minute. The short answer is the hospital let me out under certain conditions.
I see.
Are you wearing a collar?
No.
Okay.
That was funny. Let's see. So there were a couple of men in there. One of them would walk around singing all the time. One time I swear he had dumped shampoo on the ground, which was blue. It was actually conditioner that was blue. And so he walked around singing, "Everything looks like Christmas. Everything looks like Christmas." He walked around the whole facility. Because if you walk around a facility 20 times, it's a mile. So that should give you an idea of how big it is.
Okay.
Anyway, so when he walked by once, I said, "No. If the conditioner was blue, it would look like Christmas. No, if it was red, it would look like Christmas." So it was these type of comments that didn't help me.
I see.
Just smart remarks that I would typically make on a show.
I see.
Now that guy, while annoying, frustrating, there was a woman that worked there as an employee. I kind of liked her. She was a nice lady. She was funny.
Cute.
She was quite a bit older than me.
Yeah.
So I said I didn't like her in that way.
I see.
But she. Her name was Gloria, and so he would go and sing a hymn about Gloria, which I thought was hysterical. Obviously, it drove Gloria crazy. And so Gloria
it wasn't the Doors version?
Gloria would go and tell him to go back in his room.
I see.
He would constantly be told to go back in his room. And I felt that this was mistreatment because this was just the guy's strange personality.
Sure.
And that he was not dangerous to anyone.
So you felt...
Well, to be fair, Brent, we've had to deal with your strange personality by sending you out of the room before.
Well, that's the point is, so did you feel that he should not have been in there?
Yes, I felt that he should not have been in there.
Okay.
Do you think he should have been in there?
Well, I never met the guy, so I can't say one way or
Well,
the other.
that was the only thing that you could notice from what you saw of him was that he liked to walk around singing a lot, and he was one time he walked by a guy that was an employee, and he was obviously homosexual. It was clear to everyone. The best you could say is that he was bisexual. And so he asked him, he asked the guy, are you homosexual or heterosexual? And the guy's reply is, are you a man or a child? Which I thought was a great reply.
I'm so confused right now.
I heard enough of that to know that man is probably better off in there.
Well, he just asked a guy that was obviously gay whether he was homosexual or heterosexual, and the guy said back to him, are you a man or a child? As he acts more like a child than he does a man.
I don't even want to know what that suggests, but let's just move on to the next
It doesn't suggest anything beyond what I said, that the guy actually is childish.
Okay.
He's childish.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I interpreted that in a completely different manner.
No. You people are... So,
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, those people, and there was another guy that was Jewish, and he basically, I think that he had two personalities. And his second personality was like angry man, but he was not really dangerous.
Sure.
When he was angry was he just got angry.
She yelled a lot.
Right.
Uh-oh.
So, but is that really dangerous? I say not. I don't know.
Agree. That is not in any way dangerous. Those men should be allowed to roam free.
Yeah. So all of those people got let go before me.
Oh.
What?
Wait,
Well,
the singing
they
guy?
were a shorter time than me.
The singing guy was
The singing
released
guy
before
who
you?
dumped a bottle of conditioner on the floor.
Yes, he was. Actually, I can't say that. He is still there.
Okay.
So the other people were let go before me.
Well, that doesn't seem quite
The
right.
guy who hijacked the plane.
Yes, gone before I was.
Really?
Yes, or at least he was there. He was
Well,
the
you
one
should
that was
have
there a
hijacked the
shorter
plane
amount
then.
of time than I was.
Well, remember that next time. Commit some sort of crime when you're in there for an extended amount of time. They may let you free early.
I would laugh, but I was there, so I can't.
That wouldn't work out.
I can never commit a crime. My
see.
record is clean. I mean, sure, there might be a couple of girls that are ladies tonight, but we won't get into that unless you want me to.
So anyway, you were in there, and
Boy, it's a good thing this is after he's been released.
I hope your parole officer.
Do you have like a parole officer, or are they keeping...
No, because I have not committed a crime. My parents had me taken away, and the first thing I said was, what have I been charged with? Get me a lawyer, and no, not my father, because my father's a lawyer. He hasn't been practicing, but he's still a lawyer.
Sure, and you don't want your lawyer to be the one that locked you up.
Right.
That seems like a conflict of interest.
Yes.
All right, so you got the lawyer, and what happened?
No, I didn't get the lawyer until I was in there. Actually, I was offered the lawyer when I was in there for a few hours, and I was in restraints.
Jesus.
Were you like in a
Because
straight...
this is a good story. They said, as long as you don't kick, then you are not be placed in restraints. So I did not kick. Again, I yelled, get me a lawyer. What have I been charged with? Where's my lawyer? Where's my lawyer? And they put me in restraints anyway.
Yeah, yelling, Brent, may not have been your best idea.
Well, they said as long as you didn't kick. I didn't kick. So I took them at their word.
Okay, settle down. Settle down.
He's got you there, Vinny.
Well, I'm just being a little bit of if you've seen Larry David, or if you've seen what's his name? He's in Men in Tights, the Mel Brooks movie. Richard Lewis. Yes.
Oh, yes,
I'm
exactly.
just being a little bit of Richard Lewis.
You were.
Richard Lewis yells, but it doesn't mean
All
it
right.
doesn't mean he's upset.
Okay, so they got you in the restraints. Were you put in a straitjacket?
No, I was not.
Oh.
I made a comment about a straitjacket, and they said we don't use those anymore.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
describe these restraints then. I'm curious.
Handcuffs?
4-point restraints.
I'm sorry?
They tie you to the bed.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that sounds
Spread
bad.
eagle?
Right. And so basically, eventually they let 2 of the restraints go, and at that point I was allowed to speak to
Did they let your hands or
speak
your
to
feet
the attorney
go?
for the state.
Was it your right hand and your left foot?
Both. No, it was my right hand and my left hand.
Your right hand.
Okay.
So you could do sit-ups.
I suppose I could.
Okay. I'm just checking.
Actually, not really, because my hands are down, so it would be difficult to do sit-ups.
Okay.
So at that point I got to speak to the state's attorney. And I figured, well, this should be easy. I'll just tell them what happened, the jaywalking,
Tree.
Now, Brent, you said you never committed a crime.
Throwing a few things in my room, and which only my parents saw, and my mother, I should say, and then there was the Bible quote which I misinterpreted.
Okay, so those were your three things.
For those of you that were Jewish, I basically was referring to the Shema.
Okay.
Of course.
Sure.
Right.
So you figured that once this was explained, you would be free.
Right.
And what happened?
They offered me a lawyer, and I should have taken one, and I didn't, and so basically they kept me there for 72 hours.
Jesus.
And after the 72-hour period, that's when I met my parents in court, and my counselor testified against me as well. And so I was accused later of being paranoid. Well, who wouldn't be paranoid if you have your parents and counselor testify against you, and the only evidence is evidence that they had?
Hang on.
And so what?
Hang on. Your counselor testified against you.
Correct.
How long have you known this counselor?
About 9 months.
And you've been seeing, is he or her?
It's a he, and I actually brought up, not that that's relevant, but I brought up at the very beginning, do you think that there's ever a chance that you will testify against me in court? And he says, I've never done that. Court's not my type of thing. I cannot possibly imagine a circumstance where that would happen.
I was going to ask.
When I addressed this issue with him, he said, well, there's always a first time.
I see. Yes, I was going to ask if he had, and I didn't want to say he if it was a female. But okay, so your counselor testified against you in this hearing.
Yes.
Vince has found a clue.
No, I'm just an observation.
I see.
It was my mother crying on a stand that had me doomed. Because my parents did this because they love me and they care about me. They didn't do this to hurt me in any way. But nonetheless, I can no longer trust them, which is very, very sad.
So things went poorly in court.
Well, my lawyer basically tore apart my counselor's testimony because basically the story is that I was very upset at the time. This I acknowledge that I was upset and I wanted to go to people and I wanted to deal with my problems and I wanted to speak to people to help me. This is what people do when they're upset. And so I called my counselor about 11 at night, and shockingly he returned my phone call about 1 in the morning. I was pretty surprised. And so we talked for about 40 minutes, recognizing the guy has to go to work the next day and that he needs to sleep. And so at the end of our phone call, he says, Brent, I do need to go to bed. And I say, I totally understand. And he says to me, call me if there's an emergency. And I said, what's an emergency? And he says, if you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else. And I said, great, I'll make sure and call you when I have the noose around my neck. Obviously using sarcasm, because those of you that know Brent know that he makes smart-ass remarks like that, and those of you that have seen Brent in person know that he's clumsy. He couldn't do that if he tried, because I don't own a noose, nor would I own a noose. It just is.
Nor would you be able to tie a noose.
It was a silly, sarcastic remark.
Yeah.
And my lawyer tore this testimony apart because he said, what did you do when he made this remark? And the guy said, I went back to sleep.
So clearly he was not massively concerned.
Right.
In the future, Brent, you may use better judgment of when you should be sarcastic and when not to.
That's true.
Okay.
But the guy knew me well enough where he knows my sarcasm and he understood it where he went to sleep, where he did nothing. He didn't tell me to go and call the crisis clinic. He didn't tell me to do anything.
So your lawyer ripped his testimony apart and you were still committed.
Right. My mother cried on the stand, so I was doomed.
I see.
Did you cry on the stand?
I was so worried about my son, and she was.
Sure. So you were sent to lockup.
Correct.
And you were
I was already in lockup for 72 hours, and during that trial, I was in 2-point restraints.
Jesus. So you were
In
locked
a wheelchair. I mean, I was like Sabu without the face mask, or Hannibal Lecter.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I was actually in a wheelchair. I wasn't in one of those gurney things.
You never know when you might spring up in the middle of a trial.
Did you ask them to push you down the hall and let you go?
No, I decided I didn't say one word during the trial. All I did was write letters to my lawyer because I figured being Brent or being that could actually not help me, and so I was
well done.
Silent.
I'm proud of you, young Mr. Kremen. That was wise.
That's proof right there. You're not crazy.
That is, in fact.
So you were locked up and you were there for a week and a half or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You said
I was there for 2 weeks.
Okay,
and I think it was over 3 weeks because there's a 72-hour hold. Okay, and then there's a 2 weeks. All right, and so then after the 2 weeks, you had to choose a judge trial or a jury trial, and I was stupid and chose a judge trial. Fortunately, it didn't end up hurting me. And so, if you choose a jury trial, then they can hold you an additional 2 weeks without any type of hearing, any type of trial. They can do with you whatever they want for 2 weeks.
That
if you
sucks.
choose a judge trial, then you can only do that for 1 week. However, I felt that a jury would use more common sense, whereas a judge who specialized in this type of thing would go with the state unless you heard something really outrageous. Whether my thing would be really outrageous, I didn't know, but I figured I would have a better chance with the jury, and my lawyer agreed. However, he said, just go with the judge trial because it'll never go to court. And so after the 21 days plus the 72 hours, I met with the doctor and with the social worker, and they said to me, well, we didn't sleep well last night. I said, of course I didn't sleep well last night. I was going to get released. I was excited. And so they said, we just want to hold you another 3 days. Basically settle with them for another 3 days. And so I asked a question, what if I walk around singing? And they said, you're not that sick. And I said, let me speak to my lawyer. Because I might not walk around singing, but I certainly might do other things that they would not look favorably upon just because I'm Brent Kremen, I'm weird, and so I was not agreeable to basically an indefinite hold. And so I got my lawyer, and my lawyer got me out under the conditions that I don't drink for the next 90 days. And for those of you that know me know that I'm obviously not an alcoholic, and so this was a ridiculous thing. But I got my lawyer to make an exception for religious observances.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
And so I went to Shabbat services, which is the Sabbath, which we have every Friday night to Saturday night at sundown. And
every Friday?
Every Friday night to Saturday night.
Well,
yes.
isn't that convenient?
Yes, it's very convenient. And so believe me, I'll be at every Shabbat gathering that I can imagine.
But you're not an alcoholic.
I'll actually be just one each Friday because I'm not an alcoholic. And so what they do is they have you do the prayer over the wine, and then you go and you drink 1 glass of wine. You have the option of grape juice, but believe me, I'll be exercising my religious rights, and so I'll be having the wine.
God would agree.
Yeah. The tradition is wine. Grape juice is.
Okay, so what are your other conditions, for fuck's
All right.
sake?
And
Sorry.
so then there is also 4 holidays. My favorite one is Purim, where if those of you that are familiar with the Bible, the Book of Esther,
familiar with porn.
The tradition is you're supposed. No, it's in the Christian one as well.
There's porn in the Christian Bible?
It's in the Hebrew Bible, which
Sure
the Christians
there
call
is.
the Old Testament. Okay, and so you're supposed
How do we
to
get
drink.
on this? What the hell are your conditions? We got the drinking
I'm
one.
getting to this, but you're supposed to drink till you can't tell the difference between Mordecai and Haman. In other words, you're supposed to get sloshed. And there are 3 other holidays.
I'm converting.
There are 3 other holidays you're supposed to have 4 glasses of wine. And Purim is coming up, and also in
I'm
February
about to lock you up again.
There is the
Jesus.
Tu B'Shvat, which the last time when I was absolutely giggling on the floor.
Just turn him down for a little while.
Can he hear us?
No, yeah, he can hear us.
Hi, Brent.
Well,
Hey, okay, now what were your other conditions?
my other conditions were that I go to counseling daily for the next week, and I have no problem with that.
Good.
And then
Is it the same
other
counselor?
condition.
Wait a
by the
second.
way, the counselor that I'll be seeing isn't even a counselor. He's a social work guy.
Okay,
so
then.
Whatever they want me to do, I don't care. I think it would make more sense that he was a counselor, but whatever they want me to do is fine.
You have to go for a whole week?
Yes, every
They
day.
must have thought you were totally crazy.
That will solve all your problems.
Sure.
Okay.
As I told them, dealing with my problems will solve my problems.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Depends on how you deal with them,
then,
but
the third condition was I'm not allowed to have a firearm ever.
that's probably for the best.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea
Okay,
in general.
that's fine with me.
Were you ever planning on having a firearm?
No.
I didn't think so. So you're now free, and we're running a little low on time here. So the big question is, Brent, what have you learned anything from this experience? What can you tell others about what you experienced?
I don't know, because if you're Jewish, I would say if you have a mother that loves you very, very much, and that she tends to get way too involved in your life, maybe you should love her, but don't trust her with certain information.
That's a good lesson.
Or if you have a mother that's overbearing at all, and you just with love, and that she just is too involved, then you can't trust her, and that's a very sad lesson for me to learn.
So sometimes there needs to be a little bit of distance.
Yes.
And you learned this at 30, how old?
34.
34, okay.
When I was upset, I would share things with my mother. I was concerned about the storm that we had in Seattle. And I was
that was a bad storm.
I showed my mother when I threw a few chairs in the dustbuster to tell her I was upset. She says, Brent, there was a cry for help. I say, of course it was a cry for help. It wasn't a cry to go in the nut house.
Do you picture yourself going back anytime soon?
No. And as long as if I ever go to the hospital, I don't make smart remarks. I don't sound like Richard Lewis or Larry David or Woody Allen, and I behave in a way that is calm. Then I don't see myself going back there.
So basically,
that's a great idea.
You have to put on a facade of normalcy in order to not be deemed insane.
Yes, I believe that if Woody Allen, if Mel Brooks, if
Robin Williams, Jack Black, I could actually rattle off about 100 names here.
All of those people.
Notice most of them are Jewish.
Vince McMahon.
That if they were like in the state of Wyoming or Montana, they would never let them out if they weren't successful. So I've also learned that if you are successful in life, I consider that having a wife or a girlfriend.
I'm out.
All right. Sorry, it's a little too heavy here.
Go on.
A job. It's just like you don't have to have all of these things.
Sure.
I can't think of anything else at the moment that immediately comes to mind.
A car,
yeah,
a credit card.
I like limiting it to a job and or significant other. If you've achieved either or both of those things, you're a success.
Ignore Vince for a second,
right.
Brent. Just go on.
And so basically, if you don't have those things, then they are going to consider you mentally ill if you act at all strange.
It is a good point. If you're a person that does not fit into the mold of what society deems to be acceptable, and you behave in any sort of irrational manner, there's a possibility you could get locked up.
Right. And if you're in New York City, they'll let you walk the streets.
Sure.
But if you're in Montana, they'll lock you away forever. If you're in Seattle, it'll probably be somewhere in the middle.
Which is what happened to you. That's largely true. What percentage of people do you think that are in lockdown as we speak are there and should not be?
Probably 10%.
Really? That low?
Yeah. Maybe 20, but 10%,
I was thinking a little bit higher, but 10%, okay. Well, Brent, before we go today, we got to wrap this up. We'll have you back on again at some point, but we are 25 minutes into the show here.
Sure.
Why don't you tell everybody very quickly why you didn't show up here at Club Chico today, because I heard the story and I cackled.
Well, I lost Bryan's number because I have his number, his address, and I had the bus directions on a separate sheet of paper. His number and address were on his Rolodex card, which is now gone, and his the bus directions were on another sheet, both of which were in my back pocket and fell out, and so that meant I couldn't go there.
You didn't have my Social Security number or anything on that card, did you?
Otherwise, no, Bryan.
Somebody down
that I don't have, nor do I have any interest in having.
Okay, it's probably for the best. I don't want you to have my Social Security number or a gun. Either one.
I don't have any interest in having either one.
All right, well, that's good. Well, Brent, we want to thank you for being on the show today and explaining the situation.
Sure.
And
thank you for having me, and thank you for the time.
Yep, we'll probably have you
much better than 3 minutes. Only if I have 3 minutes, I promise I'll be much funnier.
Well, you're only going to get 3 minutes.
Oh, I think you were pretty funny tonight, Brent.
All right.
No, you did a fine job. So we'll have you back on again at some point down the road, probably the next TNA show, and see what's going on. So
great.
That'll be it.
You.
Everybody can contact Brent through his MySpace at MySpace.com/The Kremen. Sign up and be his friend, and he posts notes up there as well. So, Brent, we'll talk to you after a little while.
Thank you.
Bye, dude.
All right, see you.
Bye.
Well, that went slightly longer than I expected.
Banned from gun ownership.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Well, anybody who's been in lockdown should probably be banned from gun ownership.
I agree.
I do have to say this, that I would like to apologize for earlier in the show referencing the place as the Nut House and the Looney Bin and such, because, as I mentioned when Brent first went in there, when you have a friend who you know is not crazy that is put in a mental institution, it becomes a joke. It becomes funny. They're in the cuckoo's nest. They're in the loony bin. Mm-hmm. It's wacky. Then all of a sudden he starts talking about the pregnant woman who got her face shot and the guy that hijacked the airplane. All of a sudden you're brought back to Earth.
This isn't funny.
The other 90%, it's not funny. So thank God Brent's out. He didn't deserve to be in there. And we have now heard his side of the story, and I pretty much believe it.
Yeah.
There are certain. I mean, the strangest thing to me is just the counselor testifying against him.
That is, in fact, odd.
But when talking to, and there are a number of people that hung out with Brent, including Blake Norton, and there are a number of people that have talked to his family, who are the ones that incarcerated him. And my original thought was that there must be more. Brent must have tried to kill himself, or he must have tried to kill somebody. But from the outside sources, from the other sources outside of Brent Kremen, as we say in the reporting business, they all confirmed the same stories. His parents did not have more than Brent told us tonight. What Brent told us tonight is the same story that his parents told other people, which suggests there is no more to the story, which just makes the whole thing even more wacky. But
just maybe the wrong Kremen was, in fact, incarcerated.
But yes, I do have to say that there is a lesson. If Brent gave one lesson, and it applies to everybody listening to this right now, because as wrestling fans, we are out there a bit on the fringe. And some of you listening to this right now, perhaps a number of you, are a little bit wacky. We all are in some strange way. I know I am, and Vince obviously is.
Fuck yeah.
And many of you on the board. So
10 years ago, I would have been a fine candidate for this sort of treatment.
So as freaks, I guess is the best way to describe all of us. As freaks, sometimes there are moments in this life where we need to act normal.
Put on a facade of normalcy.
Put on a facade of normalcy.
Get comfortable with it.
Yes. It's fine to be wacky and out there and goofy, but when the law's involved or mental health professionals,